Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Great White Northerner here, and we're going to do something a little different today. We have a mail call to go through. So it's just the one box, but it is should be interesting. I do get stuff all the time that I've picked up on auction through Facebook groups and so on. And this particular one is a combined lot from the same guy. He was selling pre-1920 quarters and pre-1920 dimes as a lot. And I think I bought, I think there was 115 dimes and 130 quarters, or the other way around. I forget what it was now. It worked out to $9.35 is what I paid with shipping, and spot price on these are 92.5% silver, so they're sterling silver coins. Spot price was just under 900 at the time, so I maybe 5% over spot, which is not a bad deal for 1920s and earlier coins. Now, the pictures weren't great, really hard to tell what I've got in here, so it's going to be fun. Go through, see what we find. There are a few varieties we can look for. Anything that's in kind of VG or better is going to be worth way more than, well, significantly more than spot. So let's see what we can find. All right, let's open it up. Oh, before we do that, I'm just going to go through, show you what we're looking for. So this is my collection as it stands now. As you can see, I got lots of holes in some of the earlier coins. We do have a full set there from 1902 to 1906. And then we got a few holes here in the early coins and the teens, and then into the 20s. So some of them rare varieties I'm missing. 1915 is a key date, so hopefully we get one of those. And 1906 has a couple of different varieties. I do have the one here, but I have to double check. Actually, I'm not even sure if this one doesn't even designate whether it is a small crown or a large crown. So anyway, we'll look for those as well. See what else we find, and hopefully we can find something in reasonable shape. He said they're scrap coins, so they may all be G or about good, but we'll see what we get. All right, so let's move this out of the way. Let's get this box open. Maybe I don't need the knife here. Let's just... Free garbage bag. 2 free garbage bags. So, let's see. Now we need the knife. Coins are right there. Alright, there's we've got tubes as well. Alright, so there's our dimes and some quarters. So let's start with the dimes, since they are right here. We'll cut these open. I'll time lapse through some of this, I think, so that it's not too boring as we go through this, but I'm kind of excited to go through these. So let's kind of see what we get. We'll open up this first tube. Oh, it's well taped. All right, dump these out, see what we get. I'll go through the first few together, and then we can either time lapse, or I'll just bring you in as I find stuff that's interesting. So we got 1919, about good. Like that's not a... What you're looking for with these is to see a bit of detail in the crown. So here you can see there's really not much there. You can't see the band at all. Can't see any of the diamonds or jewels in the crown or in the band of the crown. With this one here, just a little bit of the band is showing. You're seeing a little bit more detail on the top of the crown. So you could probably call that one good as far as condition goes. It's a 1918. The other was a 1919. Well, looks like we're maybe in order. 1917. Let's get my hand. So again, good to about good, somewhere in there. Ideally, it'd be nice to find some stuff that might be in the VG range. A little bit more, so 1918. So he didn't lie, they're definitely below 1920, but they all seem to be pretty close to the 1920 level. So yeah, some of this stuff is going to just end up being scrap. I can't even see a date on there. That might be 19... 10. Either 10 or 19. It's hard to tell. I think it's probably 1919, but it's very well worn. A few more here. Yeah, these are all in pretty rough shape. So let me go through and see what I can find. I'll pull out the nicest ones, and if there's anything interesting as far as varieties, then I'll bring it back in. So we got all of the 2 rolls emptied here. There were 130 dimes, which is what I was expecting, so that's good. We had 78 what I would consider more scrap. So they'd be, about good or worse. And then a few of them here that just don't have any dates at all. So there's 78 of those here, all between 1900 and most of them actually between probably 1914 and 1919. There's a few older ones in there, but they're just in really rough shape. And then to keep, that is not what I would consider just kind of scrap silver. There are, a few of these that are maybe a little questionable, but this is actually a 1900 silver dime. These are 92.5% silver, sterling silver. It is Queen Victoria that is on the obverse of this coin. And as you can see, unlike most of Canadian coins where we have what's called a metal orientation, so if you flip it on its vertical axis, it's going to be at the same orientation on both sides. Whereas in the States and some other countries and our earlier coins, they are on the coin orientation, so you flip it on the horizontal axis to get the same orientation for the obverse and the reverse. So that's Queen Victoria, 1900. It's it's barely about good would be the conditioning I would consider on this, if that. And but I don't have it, so I will be hanging on it. You can see I got a hole for it right there. 1903. They're both in reasonable shape. I would consider these both good in terms of the condition. And I do need a 1903, so that's great. These are the 1903H. I don't know if you can make out the H on the bottom, but it is right there below the ribbon. So it's the more common of the two. If you can find one without an H, that's worth a little bit more. The 1904, I believe, is here. Again, pretty rough shape, but I don't have one, so it'll be a good placeholder. What else we got here? 5s and 6s also I don't have, and they're reasonable shape. Again, probably good at best. We have a 1907, which is a slight improvement over the one that I have in my book right now. So not by much, but it is slightly better, so I will probably be replacing that. The 1908, there is a variety on this, what is called the 8/8. I did look at this under the scope. It's pretty worn. It's pretty much impossible to tell if that's the variety or not, so I'm just going to assume it is not. 1909, there is also a variation on this one to be looking for, and I don't have either one of them, so that's good that I got at least one. This is the more common variety, which is called the Victorian. It is pretty hard to tell with the wear on this coin. I might bring it up, or some of these up on the microscope afterwards, but yeah, 1909 broad and Victorian leaf. These are the Victorian leaves, which is the more common of the two. The 1912, or no, sorry, I have a 1910 here, but I do have one already and it doesn't replace what I have. 1912. So this is where we switch over to the George V, and of course the orientation now switches to the metal orientation. You can see there's at least a bit of definition in the crown there, so again, probably about a good condition. Then we have the 1913, so this is a big variety that obviously this person who shipped these to me was looking for. So these are the nicer ones. There were a bunch of other ones as well, so these are the ones I'm going to kind of keep separate. The rest are over in the scrap pile there. I did check them all. These are the small leaves rather than the broad leaves. And what I'll do here is see if I can't bring this up onto the microscope. I don't want to be moving the camera around a lot, but let's see if we can't do this. So there is what is considered the small leaf. So what you're looking at is in the top right corner of the coin, and basically this is the small leaf. The broad leaf, it basically fills in this whole space. So the leaves are significantly bigger. You can't miss it. So even with the wear on there, it's pretty easy to tell whether you got a small leaf or broad leaf. So you definitely want to take a look for that, because the broadleaf is worth quite a bit more. And let's do the 1909. Yeah, the 1909, you know, Broad and Victoria. I'll throw it up here, but this one's so worn, there's just really no way to be able to tell for sure. So the Victorian leaf, it has very little definition through here, some lines in through the leaf, whereas the broadleaf has much more definition through these leaves. And that's one way to tell, but of course with the wear on this one, it's, you know, there's really not a lot there anyway. The other thing, which is also unfortunate because that's where a lot of the wear is on the coin, is the spacing between the A and the edge of the leaf, this leaf here. The Victorian leaf is stubbier. It just comes to here and there's a wider gap between here. The broad leaf is actually quite a bit more pointed and comes around and is much closer to that A, which you can barely see there. So, but I'm fairly certain this is just the more common Victoria leaf, so that is fine to fill a hole in the collection, but that's it. So let's bring this back up here again. I think that's it for the microscope. So we are now on to 15, 16, 17, 18s, and 19s. Got quite a few of them there. I have those all already. There may be a couple upgrades. I did pull out the 1919. Oh, actually, yeah, I was going to show you kind of the difference between some of these. So these two I would consider probably fine in terms of the definition. They're fairly, you can see there's quite a bit of definition on the reverse of the coin. And then when you flip it over, you can start to see a lot of the crown details on here, the band over his shoulder, and you can start seeing some of the jewels and the fleur-de-lis in the crown. So that's, you know, that's usually a good sign that you're getting closer to a fine type of coin. Whereas if you're looking at, now these are some of the nicer ones on top, but a little less definition here, right? So you know, you can barely see that band over his shoulder on both of these. The crown, you can barely make out, if at all, the fleur-de-lis on there. So, you know, I would be considering these more VG, and then there are a couple good, what I would consider good on the bottom of these stacks as well. So, but I'm going to set those aside because they're worth more. You know, the age of them, they're definitely worth more in a reasonable state. And whereas the rest of this stuff over here is just kind of junk. So anyway, so we got some nice stuff here we can set aside. We did unfortunately end up with 5 coins that were over 1920, so we're now into the 80% silver in this stuff here, which these were supposed to be all under 1920, so I will mention that to the person who sold these to me. I'm not going to get too bent out of shape, it's not a huge deal, but for the most part, a lot of these would be considered scrap by most dealers. Some of these, maybe you can get a little bit more value out of. So, all right, so that's it for the dimes. And what we're going to do now is we're going to move on to the quarters. I'll get this all set up. I'm going to drop these into the book and we will come back. Just putting the last coins in here. I've filled in the book, filled in a few holes. Sorry, can't see what I'm looking at there. But I did manage to fill up this page a bit more. And I didn't talk about this one. So this is a 1915. It is in pretty worn condition. So it is not very clear that that's a 1915, but you can see the date. Hopefully you can see that there, and it is actually a lower mintage one. So this one is actually a nice find. It is only about 688,000 of these that were minted versus, you know, 1916 there was over 4 million, 1914 there was like 2.5 million. So definitely a much lower mintage, and really nice to have found that. Difficult to pick one of these up considering the age and the amount of mintage of that particular coin. So that was nice. And this 1932 is actually a little bit lower mintage as well. Although it is, again, really slick. You can barely make out that 1932 on there. And that one is about 1.1 million that were minted of those. So not a complete loss, a little bit lower mintage on the 32. And yeah, so we've filled this all up and we're good to go. Let's move on to the quarters. Film opening these up, just see what we've got in here. So it should be more of the same, just in quarters. There are some different varieties that we're looking for in terms of some of the low mint years and coin varieties. We'll see what we can get. Ooh, nice and shiny. These are all supposed to be pre-1920, just like the dimes were. Pull those out. And I'll just do the first roll, and then I will go through, same as I did with the other one, and just see what we've got here. So a bunch 1918, 1919, 1917, 1912 or 19... I 13. Let's take a look at that one a little closer. No date. I say this is a 1907, I believe. Yeah, that makes sense. King Edward on the back, or on the obverse. And we got another 1917 here, so nothing jumping out at me too much yet. Mostly 1917s. All right, so let me go through all this. See if I can find any really old stuff. There's a 1910. That one's slick. There's King George. There's King Edward for a second. There's King Edward. 1902. So anyway, I will go through all these. We'll look for the varieties, and I will bring you back in at the end. So nothing too exciting in this stack of quarters. So first things first, I was supposed to have 115 quarters, and I have 113. So that's a little disheartening. I have bought from this gentleman before, never have had a problem. We'll probably have to go back to him though on that. I wasn't going to worry about the dimes, but you know, it is 2 quarters short. That's $10 at least, you know, just in silver alone. So you know, we're probably going to talk to him and see what we can do about that. But anyway, we did get 60 that I would consider scrap. So there's 60 coins here, and then we have a 1900, which is kind of nice. It's nice to get one. It is really slick, but you can just barely make out that it is a 1900. And that, of course, is the Victoria obverse on there. So that one will actually fill a hole in my collection. I was missing that one. It is the only one that fills a hole, and really none of these upgrade other than, sadly, the 1909, which is still bad, but the one I have is even worse. It's pretty much completely slick. So, and maybe I can find a couple upgrades in here, but nothing here was really more than at best a VG. Most of them are G, or closer to G than VG. But anyway, I got 1900, 1902 H, which is the common version of that. A couple 1904s, 3 1905s, 2 1909s, a bunch of 1910s that are all, you know, decent shape and for the age, all good to VG. 1912s, 1913s, 1916. And 1917, a bunch of 1918s. I think there's 10 1918s here and a few 1919s that were in better condition. So all in all, nice haul of silver, all 92.5% silver, and happy to have got that. None of the varieties that we're looking for, and none of the ones that I'm missing. So me personally, I needed a 1908, which is a slightly lower mintage than 1908. The 1911, which is the godless version of the coin, it is missing some of the wording on the obverse, which is why they call it godless. And the 1914 and 1915 also are a little bit lower mintage, I believe. And yeah, so that was it in terms of what I was missing from the 1900s to the 1920s. So that's it. Lots of fun going through this. I hope you guys enjoyed coming along with me as well. It's always kind of nice looking at these older coins, and you know, basically pure silver for the most part, or very close to it. And I'm able to fill up some holes in my book. So exactly what I was hoping to get out of this collection of coins that I purchased online, and filled some holes, do a little bit of upgrades, and there's probably some here that I can resell individually or in small batches that maybe a little bit better than just the spot price of silver. So yeah, awesome. Well, I'm happy with that. You guys all have a great day. Thank you very much for coming along, and take care.
Let's just have a good time, live a good life. What you mean when you say you a new heights? What you mean when you play like all night? Nightlife is a highlight. I'm a fly guy, this is skyline. I don't got the time for my problems. I got the time to dissolve them. Music is my oxygen, I'm breathing, no stopping. Human but my oxygen, the music when it's dropping. Some of these vibes provided in these lines. I'm trying to design the rhyme, checking my mind. Music be described, I got ahead of my time. Beat be prescribed, cause I feed it full of lines. Money ain't nothing, you turn it into something. I'm selling for the money, make you look real funny. Put my own name in discussion, I'm a hustler. Work real hard to show you that I'm coming, yeah.